Let me ask you something. Have you ever had a dream that made perfect sense in your heart, but absolutely no sense on paper? Because on paper, it might look like I should let this overseas dream go. Federal hiring is tighter. Jobs are being cut. Competition feels heavier. Some doors are closing before I even get close enough to knock. And let's be honest. When you're a woman over 50 trying to pivot, relocate, reinvent yourself, and still believe that your best years are not behind you, the world doesn't always clap for that. Sometimes the world looks at you like, ma'am, shouldn't you just be settling down by now? And my answer is no, I'm not settling down. I'm settling into who I want to be. Welcome back to Ways of Change. I'm Vanessa, and on this channel, we talk about reinvention, resilience, wellness, starting over, and learning how to trust the dream, even when the timeline gets messy. And today, I want to talk about why I'm still holding on to my overseas dream. Despite the cuts in federal hiring, despite what sometimes feels like ageism in the workplace, and despite the reality of today's job market. Because I know somebody watching this has a dream that looks delayed, a dream that looks denied, a dream that people may not understand, a dream that has taken longer than you thought. And I want you to hear this today. Delayed does not mean dead. Let's talk about it. Here's the thing about dreams. A real dream doesn't disappear just because circumstances get complicated. It may get quieter for a season. It may get tested. It may get delayed. It may require a different strategy. But if it's really yours, it keeps tapping you on the shoulder. That's how my overseas dream feels. It keeps tapping me. Even when the emails come back saying not referred, even when the position closes, even when the announcement doesn't include relocation, even when I see federal workforce reductions and think, okay, what exactly are we doing here? The dream still taps. And that's how I know it's not just a fantasy. Because fantasies usually need perfect conditions to survive, right? But a dream can survive pressure. A dream can survive delay. A dream could survive disappointment. A dream could survive the uncomfortable space between what you hoped would happen and what is actually happening. And right now, the federal market feels tight. I'm not pretending the landscape is easy. And I'm not sitting over here saying, oh, everything is wide open and simple. No, it's competitive. But competitive doesn't mean impossible. Tight doesn't mean closed. Hard doesn't mean hopeless. And difficult doesn't automatically mean you're going in the wrong direction. Sometimes we give up too soon because we mistake difficulty for a stop sign. But difficulty is not the stop sign. Sometimes it's just a strengthening season. One thing I've learned in this season is that I don't have to abandon the dream just because one strategy isn't working. That's a word for somebody right there. You don't always need a new dream. Sometimes you need a new route. Maybe the original plan was to go directly overseas through one agency, but maybe the bridge job comes first. Maybe the lateral move comes first. Maybe the domestic stepping stone comes first. Maybe the opportunity doesn't look like what you first imagined, but it still gets you closer. That's why I'm not giving up, because I understand now that the dream is the destination, but the strategy can evolve. I like to call that maturity. Maturity says, I can adjust without quitting. I can pivot without panicking. I can be disappointed without becoming defeated. I can look at the current hiring environment, the competition, the uncertainty, and still say, okay, what's the next wise move? That's not denial. That's discipline. That's not being unrealistic. That's being resilient. Tony Robbins once said, "The only impossible journey is the one you never begin." And when I think about this overseas dream, I remind myself, I've already begun. I've submitted the applications, I've built the resume, I've updated the strategy, I've had the interviews, I've made the connections, I've kept showing up. So even if I'm not there yet, I'm not standing still either. And sometimes we need to give ourselves credit for movement that hasn't produced visible results yet. That counts, because every application is data. Every interview is practice. Every rejection is redirection. Every connection is possibility. Every not yet is still information. My friend, we're not failing just because we haven't arrived. We are still in process. Now let's talk about something that a lot of people feel but don't always say out loud. Ageism. And I'm going to be careful here because I can't always prove what's happening behind the scenes. I can't. But I can talk about what it sometimes feels like. It can feel like once you reach a certain age, 50 plus, people start seeing your experience as too much instead of valuable. They may call you seasoned, but they treat you like you're outdated. They may admire your resume, but wonder if you're adaptable. They may value your wisdom in theory, but chase youth in practice. And when you're in midlife trying to reinvent yourself, that can hit especially hard. Because you're not just applying for jobs, you're fighting assumptions. Assumptions that you're not tech savvy. Assumptions that you won't relocate. Assumptions that you don't want to grow. Assumptions that you're too close to retirement to be ambitious. Assumptions that you should be grateful for what you already have and stop reaching for more. Really? But let me say this with my whole chest. Experience is not expiration. Wisdom is not weakness. Age is not a disqualifier. And reinvention does not belong only to the young. Some of us are just now getting clear. Some of us are just now getting brave. Some of us have spent decades taking care of families, serving our country, building careers, raising children, showing up for everybody else. And now we're finally asking, what do I want my next chapter to look like? And there's nothing wrong with that. Actually, I think it's quite powerful. Because when you start dreaming again after 50, you're not dreaming from theory, you're dreaming with receipts. You know what you survived. You know what you've built. You know what you bring to the table. You know how to lead, how to recover, how to read a room, how to manage pressure, how to handle disappointment, how to keep moving when life gets complicated. That's not a liability. That's leadership. So when the world tries to make you feel like your time has passed, you have to remind yourself, no, baby, my time is now, and it has depth. Now, I also want to speak to the job market piece, because sometimes when we hear unemployment numbers, hiring freezes, budget cuts, workforce changes, it can feel personal. It can feel like, well, maybe there's no room for me. But the unemployment rate is a statistic. It's not your identity. It's not your worth. It's not your final answer. Yeah, we have to be honest about the environment we're navigating. The job market is real. The competition is real. The uncertainty is real. But here's what I know. Every season has opportunities. They may be fewer. They may be hidden. They may require more strategy. They may require more patience. They may require more networking. They may require more flexibility, but they exist. And this is where mindset matters, y'all. Not fake positivity, not just manifest it and do nothing. Not pretending everything is fine when you're tired and frustrated. I'm talking about grounded optimism. Grounded optimism says, I see the challenge, but I also see my capacity. I know the market is tight, but I'm still qualified. I know the process is slow, but I'm still moving. I know rejection is possible, but so is selection. I know the door may not open today, but that doesn't mean I stop knocking. That's the kind of mindset I'm choosing, because if I let every statistic scare me, I would never take action. If I let every rejection define me, I would never apply again. If I let every younger candidate intimidate me, I would forget the power of everything I've lived, and I refuse to shrink myself just because this season is uncertain. There's this motivational speaker you may have heard of. His name is Les Brown. And if you know Les Brown, you know his whole message is rooted in possibility. One of his most famous lines is, "You gotta be hungry." And I love that because hunger is different from casual interest. Casual interest says, that would be nice. Hunger says, I'm willing to keep fighting. Casual interest quits when it gets inconvenient. Hunger adjusts. Casual interest needs applause. Hunger can work in silence. Casual interest gets discouraged by delays, but Hunger says, I may be delayed, but I am not done yet. That's where I am in this overseas dream. I'm hungry for a different chapter. I'm hungry for expansion. I'm hungry for the version of me that lives with more courage, more adventure, more peace, and more alignment. And I know that hunger can't be fed excuses. It has to be fed action. So I keep applying. I keep learning. I keep refining my resume. I keep networking. I keep paying attention to where opportunities are opening. I keep asking better questions. I keep documenting the journey. I keep telling the truth, even when the truth is this: I don't have the offer yet. Because somebody needs to see what persistence looks like before the success story is polished. We love the testimony after the breakthrough, don't we? But there is power in documenting the becoming. There's power in saying, I'm still in the middle, but I'm still moving. There is power in letting people see you believe before the evidence shows up. And speaking of possibility, can we talk about the Kentucky Derby over the weekend? Because if there was ever a real life picture of this episode, that was it. Golden Tempo won the 2026 Kentucky Derby after coming from the back of the pack, last place, and surging forward in the stretch to win the whole race, y'all. And not only that, Golden Tempo came in as a long shot with odds reported around 23 or 24 to 1. Now listen, that'll preach all by itself, because sometimes in life, it looks like you're behind. It looks like everybody else got out of the gate faster. Everybody else seemed to have momentum. Everybody else seemed to have the connections, the timing, the youth, the opportunity, the open door. And you're sitting there thinking, am I too far back? Did I miss my chance? Is it too late for me to catch up? But Golden Tempo reminded me of something. You could be behind at the beginning and still be positioned for a powerful finish. And you could be underestimated and still be dangerous. You could be counted out by the odds and still cross the finish line first. And then let's talk about the trainer, Cherie DeVaux, because her win was historic. She became the first woman trainer to win the Kentucky Derby in the race's 152-year history. The first woman. After all those years, after all those races, after all those traditions, after all those assumptions about who usually stands in that winner's circle, a woman finally trained the horse that won the Kentucky Derby. And I don't know about you, but that spoke to me. Because when you are a woman trying to step into a space where people may not expect you, when you're trying to make a move later in life, when you're trying to be taken seriously in rooms that sometimes still underestimate women, especially experienced women, you need reminders like that. You need to see somebody break through a door that has been closed for generations. You need to see somebody say, without saying it, history may have taken a long time, but it still made room. And that's what I'm holding on to with my overseas dream. Maybe the road looks crowded. Maybe the odds look uncomfortable. Maybe the hiring climate looks tight. Maybe people don't always understand why I'm still trying, but I'm still in the race. And sometimes the comeback doesn't happen at the starting gate. Sometimes the comeback happens in the stretch. Sometimes the breakthrough doesn't come when everybody's watching the front runner. Sometimes it comes when the underestimated one finds another gear. And that's the word right there, another gear. Because I believe I still have another gear. I believe you still have another gear. I believe midlife has another gear. I believe experience has another gear. I believe women who have been overlooked, underestimated, delayed, dismissed, and counted out still have another gear. So no, I'm not letting the odds scare me, because odds are not outcomes. The odds may describe what people expect, but they don't determine what's possible. Golden Temple didn't need everybody to believe from the beginning. He just needed enough room to run his race. And Cherie DeVaux didn't need history to already include her. She became history. That's the kind of reminder I needed. Because sometimes your dream doesn't need perfect odds, y'all. Sometimes it just needs persistence, preparation, timing, and one clear stretch where everything you've been building finally has room to move. So when I think about my overseas dream, I'm not saying I'm at the finish line yet, but I am saying this: don't count me out while I'm still running. And that brings me to what holding on really means. Because holding on is not about pretending the race is easy. It's about knowing you still have something left in you, even when the odds don't make sense. Holding on doesn't mean ignoring reality. Holding on means I still believe the dream is worthy of my effort. It means I'm willing to keep preparing, to keep positioning myself. It means I'm willing to stay flexible. It means I can accept a detour without declaring the dream dead. And that's important. Because sometimes we say we're holding on, but really we're gripping one specific version of the outcome. We say it has to be this job at this agency in this country by this date in this way. But what if the dream is bigger than the route you imagined? What if Germany is still possible, but the path starts somewhere else? What if Mauritius is still possible, but the first door is a bridge roll? What if overseas is still possible, but the preparation season is longer because the next assignment requires a stronger version of you? What if the delay is not punishment, but positioning? That's what I'm learning. I don't have to know the whole route to keep taking the next step. And I don't have to quit just because the timeline bruised my ego. Let's be honest. Sometimes it's not even the dream that hurts. It's the timeline. It's looking around and thinking, I thought I'd be further along by now. It's watching other people get selected, promoted, relocated, launched, booked, blessed, whatever the thing is, and wondering, what about me? But comparison will make you disrespect your own process. And I don't want to disrespect mine. I have worked too hard. I have served too long. I have grown too much. I have come too far. So no, I'm not giving up because the road got narrow. Sometimes narrow roads lead to the exact place you're supposed to be. So what do we do when the dream is still alive, but the door hasn't opened yet? First, we stay honest. Don't pretend it doesn't hurt. Rejection hurts. Silence hurts. Waiting hurts. Feeling overlooked hurts. You can acknowledge disappointment without building a home in it. Second, we stay strategic. We update the resume. We strengthen the interview answers. We study the announcements. We network with people already in spaces we want to enter. We look at adjacent roles and we consider bridge roles. Third, we stay visible. This is not a season to disappear, y'all. Post the content, make the connection, send the message, ask the question, show up in the rooms where opportunity can find you. Sometimes people can't open a door for you because they don't even know you're looking for one. Fourth, we protect our confidence. And this one is huge. When you're applying, waiting, and getting mixed results, your confidence can start leaking a little here, a little there, until one day you start sounding smaller than you are. Don't do that. Keep a record of your wins. Keep a record of your impact. Keep a record of the rooms you've led. Keep a record of the people you've helped, the problems you've solved, the programs you've built, the storms you've survived. You're not starting from scratch, my friend. You're starting from experience. And fifth, we keep the dream flexible but alive. The exact route may change, but don't let the dream die just because it needs a new map. So yeah, I'm holding on to my overseas dream, not because the process has been easy, not because every door has opened, not because federal hiring looks perfect, not because the market is wide open, not because I haven't felt discouraged. I'm holding on because the dream still feels alive. It's still tapping me on my shoulder. I'm holding on because I know my experience still matters. I refuse to let fear, age, statistics, rejection, or delayed timelines write the final chapter of my story. I'm holding on because I still believe there is more life ahead of me. And maybe that's a message for you today. Don't let a hard season convince you to bury a living dream. Revisit it, refine it, restructure it, reposition yourself for it, but don't bury it just because it hasn't bloomed yet. Some dreams take longer because they're carrying more weight. Some dreams take longer because they're building more character. Some dreams take longer because the version of you who receives it has to be stronger than the version of you who first imagined it. And I don't know exactly when my overseas tour will open. I don't know if it will happen the way I first pictured it, but I do know this: I'm not done yet, and neither are you. So if you're holding on to a dream that looks delayed, I want you to put this in the comments. I'm still holding on. Because that's what we're doing over here. We're not quitting. We're not shrinking. We're not letting the world tell us our expiration date. We are holding on. If this episode encouraged you, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's trying to hold on to their dream in a difficult season. And come back to the next episode of Ways of Change, because around here, we believe your next chapter can still surprise you. I'm Vanessa. And remember, you're never too late, and your peace is never too far. Bye.